Hey everyone, welcome to Auntie Stu's Pandemic Kitchen, and we're here in Maine. We're going to be talking about kettle corn today. Well, first we're going to talk a little bit about corn and how important it is. It is the quintessential American crop. It was developed in the Americas. It grew in the Americas, and now it's of course all over the world. And it is, I've been growing some here. This is not the first time I've grown corn. Actually, the first corn I grew was popcorn, and that was wonderful. I grew that in New York City. I'm sorry, I'm having a little feedback here with my earpiece. I grew that in New York City, in Flushing, where I live, or in Bayside, where I live, and we had really good popcorn. Popcorn, you have to dry it after you grow it. Has anybody here ever grown any popcorn or any kind of corn? Tamer, you must have.
Yep.
Are you there, Tamer?
Yes, Tamer's here. Tamer has grown corn. Tamer is not growing corn this year, but I had some from a friend's garden in my dinner tonight.
Yes, excellent. So I found some corn that would grow in the Northeast at the Queen's Farm Museum, and it's supposed to be blue corn, blue sweet corn, and it is growing. Part of the problem with me growing here in the woods is that I have to have shade. I am going to ask everybody to mute themselves if they would, unless I call your name out, or unless you have a question, in which case unmute yourself and shout out, because I can't, I'm working from the phone, so I can only see a few faces at a time. So anyhow, so I have this blue corn, and that was on the picture. That was the picture that was in the invite. So it is still pretty small, and I don't know if it'll grow big enough. One of the problems I have growing here in the woods is that I'm in a shady, I never get full sunlight anywhere on my property. So I am cultivating things that grow in the shade, but every now and then I plant something like the corn and see what will happen. So corn pollen is sacred. I haven't figured out quite how to collect it because it just blows in the wind, and that of course is the problem with the genetically modified corn, is because it does blow in the wind. And because of that, those genetically modified genes have probably circulated around a lot, and it's one of the reasons why we assume that there's very little non-genetically modified corn at this point, probably anywhere. But nonetheless, popcorn is not a corn that was genetically modified because it wasn't profitable enough, and sweet corn only just recently has become genetically modified. And my guess is that you can buy non-GMO certified corn, but it's always dicey when you've got that kind of pollen. So, but pollen is, the pollen is sacred, and I have a little beehive in the backyard that I was hoping, I call them my wannabes, because I don't have any bees, because I don't have any flowers, because I'm in the woods. So I'm working on growing next year a whole bunch of hopefully shade tolerant flowers, and I will hopefully get me some bees in my wannabes. Meanwhile, I did put a little pollen out there earlier. So that's my thing about pollen, or about corn. And I have this friend here, Erna, who's going to help me by filming when I start making the kettle corn, which I'll do right away, because of course everybody wants some kettle corn, right? And so I'm going to pick up my phone and figure out how to walk with it into the kitchen, and into the real kitchen, off the porch and into the kitchen. And then I'll get Erna to take over the phone, and she'll be doing the filming. So it's going into my house and into my little kitchen. And the first thing I'm going to show you actually is the corn silk, because the pollen is sacred, and corn silk is a really important herb. So it is right here. I'll show you, hopefully, like someone's gonna turn around.
Susan, you got
There
frozen.
it is. Here's my little bit of, okay, but now I'm okay, right? I'm not frozen anymore because now the phone is looking around. Somebody chime in here. Am I frozen or not frozen? I'm guessing I'm not.
Either frozen or like slow motion.
Right, it's going in and
dear.
out a little bit.
All right.
And there's
Maybe
no kernel on
I
the
will
board.
take off.
Is that better? I don't know. It could be because I've come inside and I don't have quite the bandwidth. But anyhow, I'm gonna hand the phone here to Erna, and she's gonna follow me around, and hopefully there'll be enough clarity that you can hear. I'm gonna go back to my head because I'm gonna be away from the phone. All right.
Kettle corn is something that I learned to make during COVID-19 because we wanted a snack and it was here and it's really cheap to make. So the first thing you need is a pan. This is really good. You can get this on. I love it. It's lightweight. It's got a little stir in it. And when you turn this, the stir goes around. And then we have, but if you don't have this, what you want to use for popcorn is a lightweight pan and one that you can put a lid on and one that you can shake and one that you are going to just use pretty much exclusively for popcorn, because when you heat the oil as hot as you're going to heat it to pop the corn, it's going to stick to the sides of the pan. So you don't want Teflon either. Make sure you don't have that, but you're going to get a coating in your pan. And actually you want that because it's a little easier to clean. So I'm going to be using popcorn, sugar, and coconut oil. These are the three things: popcorn, sugar, and coconut oil, and salt. That's what you're going to put in your kettle corn. And the way I remember this recipe is 2, 3, 4. A half cup of corn, and my pan takes a little bit less than half a cup, so you'll see that there's a little rim here, but a half cup of corn, a third of a cup of sugar. I usually use a little bit less. I haven't tried it with honey yet, but I'm thinking about doing that, but I decided today was not the day to do that experiment. This is coconut oil, and it's nice and hot here, so the coconut oil is melted. And a few days ago, when it was a little cooler, it was solid, but it's hot today, even in Maine. And then I have, this is just the salt that I have around that shakes out pretty good, even though it's been here a couple of Maine winters. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is turn on the pan. And if you're gonna figure out, you want it high heat, but you may turn it down as you're going along, and everybody's stove is a little bit different. This is mine. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put the coconut oil in, and then I want to put in like 2 or 3 corns, so that I know when the popcorn's hot enough. And then I'm going to shut it. So, and I'm going to turn it a little bit. And then we just sort of wait for it to start to pop before we know whether to put the rest of it in or when to put the rest of it in. So this is a great snack. It's inexpensive because popcorn's just not that expensive. And
Susan, you're frozen again.
Susan, you're frozen again. Maybe she'll try to come back. Can anybody
Right.
hear one another?
Yeah.
There she is.
I just texted her.
Hello, you're back.
Or is she?
You're muted, Sue. Sue, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. We left off, we had the coconut oil and it's just beginning to pop. So the sugar is in there, the coconut oil is in there, and now I'm gonna start turning it. So if you don't have a turner, you're gonna start shaking it a little bit. So just shake it a little bit, shake it a little bit. Oftentimes a wok can be a really nice, you've got a good lid on it, a wok can be nice because what's going to happen is the lighter weight popcorn is going to go up and the kernels will go down. Now there's a little bit more you want to have a wok that you can shake.
You're frozen again.
As we're waiting for Susan to come back, I have a question if anybody knows the answer. Does coconut oil smell or taste like coconut?
Just a little bit. It tastes and smells a little bit like coconut, but it's when it's cold, it's like the consistency of like hard butter, but it
There are
warms
two
up
kinds
real
that I-
fast and becomes liquefied.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
I'll tell you
I
later
got
about
it.
the two kinds that
I got it. I got it. Pops now. That's how fast it pops. And as I said, it sticks together. So I clean my sink out because I'm going to be making a mess. And then if I clean the sink out and dry it, when I dump it into this bowl, I can eat the stuff that falls in the sink. But some of it does. All right. And so you can see how it's kind of sticking together. You can see, I don't know if you can see that I'm pulling it out of the sink, but it's a clean sink. It's just easier than pulling it off the floor. So the dog likes it when I do that. Then you want to get the salt on it as soon as you can because you want it to stick to the corn. And it's going to be hotter than regular popcorn because of the sugar. So I'm going to
Susan, you froze again.
Tamer, I use two different kinds of coconut oil, one to cook in with and another to put in shakes and stuff. Smoothies. And the one that doesn't have the taste that you cook with is, I think, hydrogenated. There's one hydrogenated or non-hydrogenated. I forgot which one. But if you look it up, one of them is good for cooking because it doesn't have the coconut flavor, and the other is just good for smoothies and things. So that's what I do.
Yeah, because I was just curious because the one food I cannot stand is coconut.
Me too. I don't like coconut. The texture, the taste, the nothing. Ugh.
I'm with you on that. I'll be back in a minute. I have to go deal with the dog.
Okay.
Okay.
there you go.
Okay, so
Here's the popcorn. I came outside because I was hoping maybe I'd have better reception out here and I wouldn't get disconnected.
Okay, so we've got some questions.
All right.
This is Chris. The reason we have questions is that right at the crucial moment, when you were cooking the corn, everything froze up. So we saw you put in the coconut oil, and I don't think you said the quantity. Was it a quarter cup?
It's 2, 3, 4. So half a cup of popcorn, a third of a cup of sugar. I put in a little bit less, and a quarter cup of coconut oil. So that's how I remember it. 2, 3, 4, half a cup, third cup, quarter cup.
Okay, so then
oil.
Then what we saw you do is put in the coconut oil and 2 or 3 kernels of corn, and
Right.
you were going to wait. You were going to wait until those 3 popped. Then you'd know it was hot enough. But then we didn't see the next thing.
Okay. Well, that's when it disconnected. So then we put. Okay. So then, as soon as they pop, you put in the oil and you put in the popcorn and the sugar. You put the popcorn and the sugar in together. So sometimes I'll mix the two together and just put them in at the same time. But yeah, you can put them in one and then the other. So you put the sugar in because you want the sugar to do some caramelization. It doesn't caramelize to make it really brown. You can see from the popcorn it's mostly white. But you put in the popcorn and you put in the sugar at the same time, and then you start stirring it, and you can see how fast it pops up because by the time I reconnected was when it was already made, I think, correct?
Yeah. Finally, we were wondering what kind of coconut oil you used. I know when I cook, I use coconut oil that's either unhydrogenated or hydrogenated, the one without the flavor. So which kind do you use for this?
I would never use hydrogenated. I'm pretty sure I've checked all the labels. You have to be careful. I wonder about Crisco making hydrogenated, but I don't worry so much about the flavor, especially with this, because you want the coconut flavor. It gives it extra flavor. But hydrogenated oil of any kind should be avoided at all costs.
Oh, that's good to know.
It's very, very bad for your body. Doesn't really know what to do with it, and all the bad press that fats got over the years of the no fat, low fat diet. None of that was true for fats except hydrogenated fats. So I always say that if you talk to nutritionists, everybody's got a different story, but if there's about 3 things that you can agree on, that they all agree on. One is you want to get some vegetables. You want to get that fiber in your diet, eat more vegetables. They pretty much all agree on that, and eat fresh vegetables. The other thing they agree on is never, ever eat hydrogenated fats. And let's see, there's one other one that's escaping me now, but it will. Oh, and reduce sugar. So reduce sugar, no hydrogenated fats, and get more plants in your diet.
Well, what exactly?
And this is a plant.
Yes. What exactly is a hydrogenated oil?
Well, any Crisco, for one. It's
Right.
the original hydrogenated oil. And it was actually developed as a soap product because they were it was cheaper than lard to make soap, and also didn't go rancid in the same way. So that's
why they hydrogenated.
Yeah, they hydrogenated, vegetable oil to make soap. And then when they developed the in-home washing machine, for some reason, the soap manufacturers who had just developed this new ingredient, which was hydrogenated vegetable oil, that became Crisco, they became fearful that they would lose their market for laundry detergent. Now, why they thought that is a mystery to all of us who've seen the laundry detergent aisle in the grocery store. But it makes you wonder if maybe you don't need any soap at all. But at any rate, they were concerned about that. And so some bright marketeer from the early part of the 20th century realized that if they told people that Crisco or hydrogenated vegetable oil was better for you than lard, that that they could market this, what was a soap product, as a food product. And they were the original people marketing a non-food item as a food item.
Did we have an FDA back then? And if so, what the hell were they doing?
What was that question?
Did we have an FDA back then? And if so, what the hell were they doing?
Well, they were, if they did have an FDA, what they were doing is the same thing they do now, which is protecting the manufacturers, not really the people. But they didn't have one, I don't believe then, and I think it was a while before they realized the health hazards associated with eating hydrogenated vegetable oil.
So just another clarifying question. So when we say hydrogenated vegetable oil, are we basically talking about an oil that should be a liquid that they've turned into a solid?
Yes.
Okay, because that's just easier to keep in mind for me.
Yes, I mean, that's one of the things that hydrogenating does, and it increases the shelf life as well. So, and it, you know, and it was, you know, because of the shelf life increase, it became a boon to the food processors of all.
Yes, of course.
So, and it caught on at that particular point in time because there was at that point the Kellogg's and some of the other health people, health advocates of that time were
health advocates.
Yeah, the health advocates.
Poor crazy people.
At that time.
But,
Well,
some of that, Sue, some of that saving of oils had to do with the wars, World War I and World War II. One of the things that they were doing was trying to use substitutes for other kinds of oils. So, you know, it may have started out with that because they were trying to save natural oils for the war effort in every possible way.
Well, that's probably true too, but I do know that the Crisco was developed as a soap product, for soap making product. So it may have, you know, but it may have, you know, proved to be useful in the war effort as well.
Yeah.
But it turns out not to be good for your body. And I wish I could remember the whole chemical pathway for that, but basically it sticks to your artery walls, unlike and other kinds of things, which the natural oils that aren't hydrogenated of various kinds, because they hydrogenate lard now too, because lard can also, I think, get softened. Did I just disconnect it again? Okay,
No.
Good. But
so, like, is that where all the atherosclerosis really started? Was because all of a sudden they dump all this hydrogenated oil into the market and people start buying it because they think it's better than butter? Because fat's bad, you buy the hydrogenated oil, or?
I mean, I think it was a contributor, but sugar really is the big contributor to atherosclerosis. Sugar is the clear culprit in that. And many studies have shown that there was very poor research done on the no fat stuff, and it was basically funded by the sugar industry at the time.
Wow.
So, it's actually sugar. Sugar is the number one, you know, is the real problem in that. And you know, because it is sticky, and apparently it's sticky in your blood as well. So that's that's the real problem. So, and again, this does have sugar in it, but I try to limit my sugar, and I try to limit it to, if I'm going to make a dessert though, it tastes better with sugar, but I will always cut my sugar in half, generally speaking. So sometimes I'll make this with less sugar as well. I was just showing you, I like the 2-3-4 rule, but I'll actually, I oftentimes make it with a half cup of popcorn and a quarter cup of sugar and a quarter cup of of the coconut oil.
So
Because
it's
I just like to
the
reduce my.
2-4-4 rule then. That's easy.
What was that?
The 2-4-4 rule. That's still an easy rule to remember.
It's still easy to remember. I
Yeah.
just go scant on the sugar.
Mhm.
Sue, I have to go to another Zoom church meeting. So, but
Oh.
it's great to see everybody and
Nice to meet you, Chris.
have fun making your popcorn and maybe we can compare notes next time.
Yeah,
how it
that would
turned.
be good. Yeah, it'd be
Or we
fun to hear how people do with their popcorn.
We can all bring our popcorn to the next meeting. Do you know what the next subject, Sue, do you know what the next subject will be?
I'm hoping, if all goes well, that we are going to go visit my friends Mike and Bob at their house. They have a little farm, little farmette. They, live in actually in Sydney, Maine, which is not far from me. And they have a little farm, and of course they are harvesting, but they're not harvesting in the crazy way that Carolyn Christensen is. So we're going to try and catch her on the back end of the harvest season, because she has a big farm and a couple of kids, and she's working really hard. So next time we should be at Mike and Bob's house, and I think Bob is going to show us some of his techniques, what he's put up, and maybe talk about that. I know Tamer's done some putting up of harvest for the, you can, if you're going to keep preserved vegetables through the winter, which is something that, anybody who lives in a cold climate wants to do. If you're going to have any, you need to do something. And canning is the most modern way of doing that. Well, actually, freeze drying is the most modern way of doing it, but canning is a modern way of doing it. It requires high heat and a pressure cooker oftentimes. Freezing is another modern way of doing it, but there's also salting and fermenting, and both of those are very, very old ways of preserving harvest. So we may talk a little bit about that too.
Have fun, everybody. I'll see you next time.
Hi, Chris.
Okay, see you later, Chris.
Yep.
All right. So are there any other questions?
Well, first, Susan, do you think we'll be talking about ways to preserve harvest through the winter in the times to come?
We can. I'm hoping to get my, I don't know, the lady next door to me in New York, she does all of her, she makes marinara and cans all of it, puts it in jars for the whole winter. So she buys a couple flats of tomatoes and does that. So if I can figure out a way to do that, get that on film, I will do that. I don't think I'll be there. I think she'll do it before I get back to New York, but I can call her and find out. I can show you how to ferment, how to make pickles and stuff with salt and water. That's all you really need to do that. And pickles are easy to make. And it's just really 2 ingredients, and you make sauerkraut pretty much the same way, and you can do it with any other kind of vegetables as well. So I'll try to get some good pickling cucumbers and do that, and I'll ask Bob what he's doing, and I don't know what he'll be doing, but he does everything. He does freezing. I think he does some of the pickling, fermenting, and this is low heat pickling. So low heat pickling is fermented, and you have a probiotic, a wonderful probiotic liquid around it. But if you heat it up, then you've killed all the microorganisms, which is great if you don't want the cans to explode on the shelf, which they don't want in the grocery stores, or the jars to explode on the shelf, which can happen. But you at home, if you can do it, you actually do want to get those fermented vegetables to stay.
You froze up again.
You're still frozen.
You froze up again, Susan. Hello? Susan? Hello?
The only bad thing about being in a beautiful main setting is the Wi-Fi capacity, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Oh, she's coming back. Oh, welcome back.
She's muted.
You're muted.
All right, now I'm off mute, I think.
Yeah.
So you can add other ingredients to this if you want. I don't think I would, Erna was just talking about adding sriracha. I don't know if I would want to put sriracha on this, but cinnamon would be good.
Oh,
And maybe
cinnamon.
a little cayenne might be
Wow.
nice. You could probably
Well,
even
like,
sprinkle
like
a
hot
little
stuff.
chocolate powder on it.
Oh,
How about nuts, like peanuts or pecans, you know?
Sure, why not? But
Nice.
you would add them after. I would add them, I think. I don't know what would happen if we added them at the beginning, if they would burn or not. They might not, but they're more likely to. I would add the nuts, I think, after. And they might not get as coated as the corn gets, because the corn is coated with a very light coating
mm-hmm.
that makes it real crunchy.
Like Cracker Jacks.
Like Cracker Jacks, not as heavily coated as Cracker Jacks.
No, I know, but still, with the nuts in it.
Yeah, the nuts might be good in it. I might toast the nuts separate and add them in. That would be a little bit more. I would toast them and maybe put a little sugar and caramelize them a little bit too, and then add them in. But yeah, that would make it nice like Cracker Jacks. You could really add anything to it. I'm usually too lazy to add anything but the 3 ingredients, 4 ingredients that I have in it.
So,
very
Susan, can I tell you an oil story?
Okay, tell me an oil story.
So my grandmother, Sicilian woman, when she makes eggplant, she just, she peels it, she slices it lengthwise, she fries it in olive oil, she puts it on a plate that's slanted so the oil can drain out, and then she sprinkles spaghetti cheese on it.
Ooh,
So this
that
is how
sounds good.
Oh, it's completely delicious. So this is how I ate eggplant growing up. So I made some for myself a couple of weeks ago and it was completely delicious. But then my friend Tara was telling me about, oh, olive oil's bad if it's at high temperatures, bad things happen to it. You should use a different oil, an oil for higher temperatures. So I was in the store and my roommate was with me. She's like, oh, canola oil. You can use canola oil. That's good for high temperatures or whatever. So I did. I used the canola oil, and I have to say, it kind of changed the taste of the eggplant. And
for the better or for the worse?
I don't like it as much.
Grandma wins, always.
Always Grandma wins. No, exactly. Well, right. The moral of the story is Grandma wins. But so because actually I use olive oil for everything. In my cooking, I'm always using olive oil. So I'm just deciding not to worry about whatever it's not supposed to be healthy wise, because
if it's not smoking, it's probably okay. So you're gonna use olive oil at a lower heat, so I wouldn't use it for the popcorn, because even the coconut oil was smoking a little bit by the time.
I mean, I'll never make popcorn. That's just too much of a bother. But
canola oil, by the way, canola oil is wild GMO. Canola is already growing in the ditches. So canola is one of those, another air pollinated. So it's been genetically modified and it's already escaped from farms and into ditches.
That's not a good oil, canola.
I stay away from canola oil for that reason.
Okay, well, good, because honestly, it smelled up my house icky. Like I didn't like the smell that was left in the air after I used the canola oil. I was like, ugh.
Well, when Chris was talking about using different oils during the war, that's when they started getting into some of these oils.
Yeah.
I think canola oil you could make without chemicals. Corn oil you can't. Like you can press olive oils, the way you make nut oils and olive oils is just by pressing that fruit.
Yeah, exactly.
Nut.
Yeah.
But when you have to make anything like corn oil, is made by adding all sorts of horrible chemicals to.
Oh, so
pull the
corn
oil
oil is
out.
not even good for you.
No.
All right. Well, I'm just going to go back to my olive oil. It's more expensive, but I don't care. It's just me. I don't have a big
Stick
family.
with olive oil, but if it's smoking, that's not good. But just turn the
No.
heat down.
Yeah.
Cook it at a lower temperature.
Yeah.
You might have to cook it a little longer, but it's
Mhm.
going to preserve the integrity of the oil.
Yeah.
So
So
everything can.
if I want to get rid of the canola oil, do I just dump it down the sink or just throw it in the garbage?
No.
That's why I
It'll
asked.
form a-
That's why I asked.
It'll form a great big fat clog, and
Yeah,
it's
no.
horrible.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, just leave it as it is, put it in the jar and put it in the trash and let
In the
your
trash.
municipality deal with it.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Or you can use it to oil, things. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't put it on my skin really either, but
Yeah. No, I'm not going to put it. It's just that's
just get
the
rid of it.
smell. The smell of the cooked canola oil is just ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a tasty oil.
No, not at all.
Olive oil is really good, and olive oil is really good for you and has a lot of different
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right.
micronutrients in it.
I'll take the risk if it smokes a couple of times. It's. I don't think it's going to kill me, honestly.
Well, if you keep your oil for frying, if you keep it below its smoke point, you
Yeah.
can use it 3 or 4 times. Just strain it out each time and you can use it again. But if you're smoking it, you're pretty much breaking down the oil.
Yeah, that's what my friend was saying.
Yeah.
So, Tamer, do you reuse your olive oil?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh.
That I've never done before. Reuse my oil. That's a new thought.
Well, if you're gonna, when I deep fry, which I've done a little bit, not very much, but I usually I have a small cast iron fry pan about that size, so I can fill it fairly. I can put a half inch of oil in it or even more.
Mm-hmm.
That I usually use coconut oil because it you can get it high enough to do a nice deep fry, and then I usually do strain it out and reuse that. I mean, keep it in a separate jar so that I have it separate.
No, that makes sense. I'm really just sauteing. When I use oil, it's just a saute. So
yeah,
fry
and and actually, you want to keep things below the smoke point if you can. Anyway, I try to do that with them. I can't really see it because it's the lid of the Whirley-Pop.
Mm-hmm.
And Erna said the Whirley-Pops, she found it on Amazon, and you can order it there. And there's other places too, yeah. It's kind of a nice little thing, and if you like popcorn. Oh, and the cleanup. So the first time I made kettle corn, which when I first got the Whirley-Pop like 10 years ago, I tried the recipe out that came with it, and I seemed like I was scrubbing the sugar out for days. I don't know why I did it that way, but now what I do is I just take it and put the whole thing in water and the lid in water and leave it for a while, and the sugar just melts away.
Yeah, so good.
It's really easy. It's really easy to clean. So that's kind of nice. But the nice thing, you can use it to make regular popcorn as well. And again, it's not an air pop. You're going to have to use some kind of oil.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use the coconut oil. You can use avocado oil is good, and it's a flavorless oil. You can use ghee. Ghee is another, which is butter that has been clarified. So all the protein solids have been cooked out and filtered out of it. So you can use that to make popcorn if you've got
Question?
and that just gives flavor to the popcorn. But that's for more of a savory popcorn, and to put the oil in, and then
So
you put the sriracha on. Huh?
So with the ghee, when it takes the solids out, whatever that is that better, or does it make no difference for somebody who's got a problem with the lactose?
if you make ghee, there's no lactose in it. Well, butter doesn't have lactose in it either because it's the fat. I don't think
Well,
there's any.
Well, milk products aren't good for me. Cow's milk products aren't good for me. I always get a reaction to them.
Butter typically doesn't have any lactose in it, but it does have the proteins in it. And when you make it into ghee, whether you buy it as ghee in the grocery store or whether you make it yourself, there's plenty of YouTube videos that show you how to do it. It's very simple to make, so you can butter and then just clarify it and put it in your refrigerator. It's probably cheaper than buying ghee, and at least you know where the butter came from, what kind it was, and then that has absolutely no lactose in it. It doesn't even have any casein in it. So butter typically has protein, which is casein, and about 3% of the population is allergic to casein, I think, if I remember my numbers correctly. But about 10% of the population is allergic to lactose, which is the milk sugar. So, but ghee, clarified butter, has nothing in it that could make you allergic.
Okay, so it might be something to experiment with.
It might be, yeah.
And it has a much higher smoke point than butter.
Higher what?
Smoke point. It'll take a lot more heat than butter will.
Oh, okay.
Right, because the proteins is what burns in the butter first.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. There's all these cool things that you learn. And ghee gives it a nice flavor. And if
it would.
And probably the butter will brown before the popcorn pops, so that you get a nice brown butter.
Yeah.
And brown butter is another kind of a nice flavor. It's a little bit nutty. You have to be careful because it goes from brown to black in a very short period of time. But
or you can use lard.
You can use lard, and you can use any the animal fats are all pretty good high heat. But again, you want to filter out all the impurities. Run them through a filter or through a. I usually run mine through. I have those little sieves that with a fine mesh, and that's usually enough to do that. And then again, that's going to give the oil, the popcorn, a flavor. So any of the flavored oils, but olive oil you can't really use because it doesn't get hot enough. It doesn't get hot enough to pop the corn, but you can add it afterwards. So when I make my corn, my savory popcorn, what I usually do is I use avocado oil if I have it. They had a big bottle at Costco a while back. I still have some left. So the avocado oil or one of the other neutral oils, coconut oil would work fine. It's another good one to use. And then I mix butter and olive oil together. And I have some truffle olive oil that I sometimes use. And that I melt that after I've made the popcorn.
Yeah.
That's pretty good stuff.
Drizzle it. Yeah.
So
good
that's
to know.
One of the other things that's kind of nice. So you can make some really nice gourmet popcorn for a fraction of what you pay, and much fresher and much more delicious and more nutritious than anything you're going to buy in a bag in the grocery store.
Sure.
So embrace the sacredness of popcorn, and this is the season, corn season. Even though if you picked your popcorn now, you would have to dry it, but still, it's corn season. So eat it sweet, eat it popped, eat it any way you can get it.
Susan, to collect the pollen, take a paper bag or a Ziploc bag. When the tassels first come out, and put the bag over the top, kind of lean it over to the side and give it a couple of good whacks, and that'll knock some of the pollen loose. You'll have to do it several times to get any amount of pollen, but that's how you do it.
Really?
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Because I know that it's one of those things that you use, in Native American ritual. It's very often a part of one of the ingredients, that you sprinkle that to attract the the good energies of the spirit.
The good and the food and all of those things, yeah.
Right.
Now you were saying you had blue corn, but you said it was sweet. I thought the
Yes.
blue corns were only a dent or a flint corn. I didn't know they had any sweet corns.
I didn't either. And if they ever grow bigger than hors d'oeuvre size, I will send you a picture.
Okay.
And I can actually send you a packet of seeds if you want to try it out for yourself.
Ah, next year I might.
Yeah. So, because I have more seeds than I can grow in my little tiny grow box. And I think next year I'll just grow it ceremonial. I'm going to grow a 3-sister box of the corn,
Oh, okay.
the beans,
Yeah.
and the squash. So I don't need very many corn seeds. So I'll put those in an envelope to you.
Yeah,
And
and I forgot when I sent that package to you, I have a whole bunch of garlic scapes that I cleaned up and dried out to pop. And did I send you any? No.
Oh. Oh, well. You sent me a lot of good stuff, though, Tamer, so thank you.
Okay.
Care boxes from Tamer. Very nice.
Send Tamer addresses. She sends care boxes. She's funny that way.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I sent away for crocus, saffron crocus the other day.
Oh, okay.
And they were having a sale. And I bought, I think I got 16 or 32. I can't remember. I got 2 orders of them. And they're supposed to bloom in 6 weeks from whenever I plant them. And then you cut the little saffrons out of them. So
I thought you just picked them.
No, they have these little, they're part of the flower. It's pretty cool.
In
the stem, yeah. I have to figure out where I ordered it from, and then maybe I can send you either a link or send you some crocus for yourself.
Okay, yeah, the one I've been wanting to, that's growing here, it's real pretty. They call them naked ladies or ghost lilies.
Wow.
They just come like a stalk. I don't see any foliage to them. And, you know, a nice tuft at the top. They're real pretty. So I want to check out nice little pink flowers on top, but real pretty.
Wow.
So I want to check those out. But I don't know how they photosynthesize without having leaves.
They have their tricky ways.
Yes. Kind of like that Indian pipe that grows out here that has no color in it. It's clear. It's a white
we have those that come up around now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, do we have any more? Oh.
I was just going to say, I found a really good chicken of the woods mushroom today.
Oh, good for you. I got another lobster mushroom the other day too. So we're all having harvest stuff here going on. What?
Yeah, for dinner we had potatoes out of my garden, onions out of the garden, corn out of a friend's garden, garlic out of my garden, and then Lois smoked some ribs yesterday. So.
Sounds great.
We're all coming to your house next week, Tamer.
Okay. Okay.
Where do you live, Tamer? What area do you live in?
Harpers Ferry, West Virginia.
Okay, we'll be over there.
Okay.
Good.
Send us the Google Maps.
Okay. Yeah, it's a real bear to find, as Susan knows.
Okay.
I know, and I was doing it in the dark. It was even harder then.
Yeah, I was surprised you made it at all.
It's the one yard without a Trump Pence
Sign.
Now you can put on Biden Harris.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
She
I'm
doesn't
so
want to
happy.
get killed. Oh my God, you kidding?
Yeah.
Virginia? Trump territory? No.
Yeah. It's one of those, you look at the folks, and my dad would always say, you know, always figured it took 2 people to be that stupid. I didn't say that, did I?
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, good.
So that reminds me of a joke, and then I'm gonna have to get off and get going before they disconnect me again on the Zoom meeting. But that reminds me what you're saying about your dad used to say that. I was listening to Mrs. Hughes. She's a comedian today, and she was saying that, you know, when you know, they tell you when you go through menopause that you're going through the change of life. And she said, you know, when you're going through puberty, they tell you you're becoming a woman. But when you go through menopause, they don't tell you what you're becoming. She said, I'm becoming my father. So
That's a great joke.
No.
it is a good one, I think.
That's a great
She's got some good ones. Look her up on YouTube. Well, I am going to sign off now and get something to go with my popcorn now that I had dessert first.
Yeah.
And I will see you all again next week, I hope.
What's the
Thank you,
topic?
From the Tandem Kitchen, huh?
What's
She's
the
going to
topic
farm.
for next week?
The topic is going to be preserving the fruits of the harvest.
Okay.
One
Oh,
way
and
or
Bob,
another, we'll
Bob and
be
Mikey?
preserving.
Great.
Bob and Mike.
Thanks.
Yeah, Bob and Mike.
Thanks
hope.
so much. I
You're
hope so too.
welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Everybody's gone.